We'll turn to this story now. Lydia Booth is an elementary school student in Mississippi. And during the height of the pandemic, when she was in third grade, her school required masks. Lydia wore a mask that said, "Jesus loves me." One day, she was pulled aside by her teacher and asked to remove the mask. Several days later, the district changed its mask policy to prevent religious or political statements. A lawsuit was filed on behalf of the family in November of 2020. Just this past week, the school agreed to discard the mask policy. Lydia is now in fifth grade, and as we just said, the school no longer requires face masks. Jennifer Booth is Lydia's mom. She's with us now. Logan Spena is the legal counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom. Welcome to you both, and thank you so much for coming on. I'm so glad we can see everyone's faces these days, right? The mask policies have been lifted, and we can all breathe a sigh of relief for that. We know how covered faces really did impact students during the pandemic, especially when it comes to their learning. But Jennifer, I understand Lydia was just following the rules. She was wearing the masks, and hers had a message on it. Why do you think that led to the policy that no politics, no religious speech were allowed to be broadcasted on a student's face mask?
I really don't understand it entirely. Initially it was just the ban on the words, and as it escalated up, they ended up changing the policy and banning all religious speech. And it still doesn't make sense to me how it got that far, but.
Yeah, and I mean, Jesus loves me is a very positive message. Wanted to point that out. Of course, as we all know, Logan, let me bring you into this. Talk to me about the timing, the decision from the school, and why you think maybe your client has a case.
The decision from the school, I think, reflects something that we see in public schools in America all across the country, unfortunately, very commonly, and that's just an overt hostility to religious expression, even when it's just the private expression of the students. They act as though they have some kind of constitutional mandate to purge religion from the schools entirely, when in fact it's the opposite. Students don't shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse gate, and they have the right not to be discriminated against because of their religious beliefs. And not only do we have a case, we won the case, right? This is a blatant case of religious discrimination, and so the school agreed to settle as a result of that.
Which I'm sure, Jennifer, you're happy to hear the results of, right? And Lydia feels as though, her fight to express herself and maybe her own beliefs was not without fail. Tell me about how your family's doing right now and what's been the reaction to how this saga has really all played out.
We're doing good. We're relieved, to finally see this come to a close and to know that in the future, my children and grandchildren and all the children in the school district will be able to express their religious belief.
Sure. I just want to go back in time, so we've got all the facts out here. The Simpson County Schools superintendent sent a letter essentially to families and staff shortly after Lydia had worn that mask to school, saying this in part: the school district does not discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, religion, disability, marital status, or age in admission or access to or treatment of employment in its programs or activities. Masks cannot display political, religious, sexual, or any inappropriate symbols, gestures, or statements that may be offensive, disruptive, or deemed distractive to the school environment. This expectation was outlined in our restart plan and is specific to masks only. Logan, again, when you were defending Lydia and her family in this matter, what issue did you take specifically within that statement?
Well, there's at least two of them. One is the fact that the application to masks only doesn't make any sense, right? If they're going to permit some students to wear things on their clothes, like a T-shirt, for example, that has some degree of personal expression, it makes no sense at all to then somehow have a problem with it being on a mask. And the other point is that when they banned religious or political expression on masks, they did this retroactively because they wanted to find some justification for punishing Lydia. In fact, other students had already been allowed to wear masks that had personal expression on it. They have no justification doing this, and the Constitution says you can't discriminate against students because of their religious expression. And so that's what the school ultimately had to agree to in their settlement.
Jennifer, how's Lydia doing? How's she doing in school? How's she feeling overall?
She's doing good, and like I said, she feels great. Knowing that her religious expression's protected.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad that this story ended this way in a positive manner for any student who would want to express something on a mask. And again, the mask policy is done and over with, thank goodness. Jennifer Booth and Logan Spena, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.